Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about your gut biome and what you feed breeds. So what do I mean by that? Let's talk about the gut biome first. Your gut has about 1,000 to 2,000 different types of species of bacteria, as well as like fungus and yeast, which are the same thing, and viruses that live there and they cohabitate together. Hopefully they do, right? Otherwise you have dis-ease, which leads to disease. Your gut biome is 80% of your immune system. Yes, 80% of your immune system. So you want to make sure it is healthy and robust and is being treated really, really, really well. Because if you treat your gut biome well, it treats you well in return. So what do I mean about treating it well? What you feed breeds. So when you feed good bacteria, good foods, it's going to grow and proliferate and kind of be the king of the castle. So we have bad bacteria that lives in there and it cohabitates. And then we have good bacteria that lives in there and cohabitates. And you always want the good bacteria to be the most abundant and to be the king of the castle, right? And your bacteria over time, between like getting sick and taking medications, it does like a this dance, right? And so it's constantly moving around, but you always want the good bacteria to be here on top, kind of controlling everything, because that is the bacteria that is going to send out the right chemicals to tell your immune system to do all the smart things, like keep you healthy and not attack your own tissues and organs, right? So what happens when we have this flip-flop, the tables turn, and we now have bad bacteria being the king of the castle? Well, that's when we start getting like dysbiosis and gassiness and bloat and brain fog and autoimmune diseases and inflammation. And that can manifest in many different ways. And those things will lead to more serious diseases down the line, like diverticulitis or IBS or IBD, or there's tons and tons of things that can happen. In fact, there has been some research showing that according to certain different like food poisonings, there's a bad bacteria that hangs out, and that is the reason why people get appendicitis. So you want to make sure that you are trying to keep the good bacteria on the top at all times. And that's not always going to be 100% perfect like this all the time, but there are steps you can take to make sure that you are feeding these good guys the good things, and you want to feed them complex carbohydrates. So what is that? That is vegetables. The best pre and probiotic on the face of the planet is vegetables. That has been true for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Good bacteria loves good food. Bad bacteria loves bad food. So what's bad food? It's basically the standard American diet. So it loves simple carbs, it loves sugar, it loves inflammatory fats, it loves anything that is processed, basically chemicals. There's research out there that shows that even like herbicides and pesticides not only kills good bacteria, but it creates a perfect breeding ground for bad bacteria to proliferate. So we want to be really mindful about which guys we are feeding and which guys we are protecting at all times. Now, there's another thing that I want to touch on a little bit that is extremely important for us to understand, because we now know good bacteria is 80% of our immune system, and we want to keep feeding it all the good foods so that our immune system can keep staying smart, so it can keep serving us and benefiting us, right? Or we benefit from it. What happens when we take antibiotics over and over and over again? Well, let's say this is your gut biome. Good bacteria is up here, bad bacteria is down here. You take an antibiotic, they're both obliterated, right? And then you eat the standard American diet and these guys start growing. And now we have like a little table turn here. And then you take an antibiotic again and they both get decimated. And then you crave sugar and cookies and soda. And then again, no judgment. We all eat that stuff, right? Moderation, guys, or just don't do it at all. Just don't do it at all. So everything's obliterated and these bad guys start growing and they start growing. How many of you have taken antibiotics over and over and over because you've had like an ear infection, or your children have had an ear infection? And the more antibiotics they take, the more often they get ear infections. There's a reason to that. And it's this reason. It's because these good guys are being destroyed. And these bad guys are coming out and they're proliferating. And now guess what? The immune system isn't doing its job well, and the bad bacteria is now the king of the castle, and it's wreaking havoc on your system and on the organs that you are most vulnerable with. Some people, that's their lungs. Some people, that's their ears. Some people, that's their gut. Some people, that's their kidneys. You know, UTIs, for instance. How many of you have had UTIs and have had to take antibiotics over and over, and now you're taking more and more and more and more antibiotics because you are now creating this bacterial resistance to antibiotics. So now this bad bacteria is becoming resistant, and your immune system is completely shot because the good bacteria is done for, right? So be really mindful. Talk to your doctors when they recommend antibiotics. Ask them if it's completely necessary, and do your homework. Go listen to my Instagram story on ear infections, because that's where it starts, with our little kids getting antibiotics over and over and over again when it's really potentially not that necessary. What do I mean by that before people get really angry? Because yes, antibiotics have saved more lives than any medication on the face of the planet. That is true. But what do I mean by them being overprescribed? So about 75% of ear infections is actually viral. And so these kids are getting blasted with antibiotics for a viral infection that isn't even bacterial. So we are destroying this good bacteria over and over and over again unnecessarily. So that's what I mean when I say advocate, educate yourselves. And it's okay to question your doctor on their typical protocols. Doctors just now, nurses just now are learning about this overuse of antibiotics and how it's hurting the human body. So old school doctors that were educated 10 plus years ago, they don't know about this. They have to be educated on this stuff by themselves. So this is why it's important for us to educate ourselves, because your doctor doesn't know everything, and that's okay. You got to give him permission to not be the expert in all the things. You need to be the expert in your health and in your children's health, and keep up to date on these things so you can advocate, right? That's why we talk on the internet. So long story short, be mindful, talk to your doctor always. And if your kid has some kind of infection, make sure it's bacterial, all right? Before you start slamming them with the antibiotics, because we really, really want to nurture this good bacteria. We want to make sure it's there for good, and we're feeding it, and we're breeding it, and we're keeping it happy, because a good, healthy, happy biome means a good, healthy, happy body. And that means you're happy, all right? That means you're feeling good. That means you have energy. That means your good biome, your good bacteria is actually breaking down your food so you can absorb it really well. It means your immune system is really smart. So you're not getting food allergies, and you're not getting skin disorders, and you're not getting brain fog, and you're not getting autoimmune diseases. This healthy, happy bacteria determines a lot of that, if not all of it. So make sure you are feeding it good food, good, healthy food. Vegetables are the best pre and probiotics on the face of the planet, and you don't even have to pay extra for them. So make sure if you're an adult, get at least 8+ servings of vegetables a day, and make sure that you are trying to train your children on how to love vegetables and have a love affair with vegetables again, because they are so important for our health, for our children's health, and for your gut biome's health. Your gut biome really is one of the most important things that lives inside your body. And this is a really fun fact too. For every 1 human cell that you have in your body, you have 10 bacteria for that. So that means there's 10 times more bacteria inside of you than there really is you. So there's more foreign DNA in your body than there is your own DNA, which is kind of cool. So feed the good guys the good things. And that's it. I'll talk about probiotics another time, because that's a whole different story. But you want to, again, just hitting home that your gut biome is so important. You really need to nurture it. You really need to pay attention to it and its needs, because a healthy gut biome is a healthy body, always. Research time and time again is telling us this. From diseases to mental wellness and mental illness, You know, your gut biome plays a really big role in that. It always has. One last cool fact about gut biome is we all say the gut biome or your gut is the second brain. Well, really, it was the first brain. If you look into like evolution and all, like even how the fetus develops in your uterus, like the gut is the first thing to develop. It's one of the first things to develop. So that's kind of cool. That's how important it is. If you look at evolution, the gut had to form first in order to grow the brain. And so they work so synergistically together, but your gut and your gut biome can truly make or break you depending on who is the king of the castle. So make sure your healthy gut biome is always the king of the castle, and then you will be a happy, healthy person.